All right. Hello, Durud and Shalom. Everybody, look at who we have here. We have Miri. How do I pronounce it? Meira K?
Meira.
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 Meira
Hello,
K and Roy. And we have her
Roy.
here thanks to Roy. Roy went and
Funny
hunted
guy.
her down for us. And now we have the honor to have her as our guest. Hi.
Hello. He did hunt me down,
But
and I
we
am very bad at responding. So, good job.
and we had to allow we didn't want to allow Roy here, but because he's responsible for our guest here, we had to actually invite him as well, unfortunately.
He's now part
I'm
of the
just
cool
kidding.
kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And now people love Roy actually too much in our community, and I'm threatened by him because he's like competing against me right now. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm attacking him.
Competition
Anyways,
for everybody. We're
yes.
pure
Well,
capitalists over here.
okay, so tell us about yourself because I think most of our audience already knows you, apparently.
Okay.
But yeah, but for the people who don't, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am originally from London, but now Israeli, and I grew up in a very idealistic home, an ultra-orthodox home, like full religious everything. The hair that you see in all the videos, that's my wig. Fun fact, I cover my hair, which is why I'm wearing this thing right now. And I, after October 7th, realized that something was really wrong. What a lot of people don't know about me is that up when I was about 18, I realized that kind of the political arena that I was in, specifically here in Israel, was just very misrepresented and people didn't understand it. And I joined a tech company that really was trying to fight against free speech. Well, fight for free speech, fight against the people taking away of free speech, which was a real problem back then. And that kind of opened my eyes to really like a more idealistic path of realizing that if I'm ever going to work, which I do 24/7, but if I'm ever going to work, it has to be something that I actually think is going to change the world and improve the world. So I did that for a few years, and then came October 7th, and I realized that our voice was not being heard, both on like an individual level, my perspective, my community's perspective, the idea of more right-wing news and politics and analysis in English. And I started a channel doing that. That grew very quickly, and that does kind of every single day updates and explains politics, etc. And as an accompaniment to that, I started my social media. That grew very quickly. We had a few 100 million impressions in the first year. Then I got pregnant and had my baby, and I was offline for a while. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yay. Thank you.
Congratulations.
She's so yummy. She's probably gonna cry during this, but she's so yummy. So I had my baby, and after I had my baby, it gave me some time. Like I'd been in the marathon of like post-war, just like content, and I realized that I just don't think that what we're doing is correct. I don't think that any of this is about defending Israel's position, because Israel's position is absolutely 100% correct. It's about a whole bunch of people who have been manipulated by the media and by radical Islamists into believing things that are so self-destructive and so wrong. And that if we actually want to solve this, it's not about trying to convince people in the Israel-Palestine conflict, because none of the Palestinian arguments can hold a candle to the Israel arguments. Just like there's nothing to even discuss there unless it's a purely emotional one. Like, oh, but I saw a baby murdered. Okay, well, why is the baby being filmed? What's going on here? Like the arguments don't stand. And I said, okay, enough's enough. We have to fight the core of this, which is radical Islam, Qatar, the woke right issue. What?
Kevin Sowens.
Yeah, the woke right issue, which to me was very clear. I've watched Candace for years. I've watched the right in America do their thing and evolve. And do a great job in that. And then I just saw such a crazy turn so quickly, which I think a lot of people would have predicted had they been listening more carefully. But people got very obsessed with the left-wing anti-Semitism and the left-wing pro-Palestinian movement that they just got distracted by this kind of inherent anti-Semitism on the right. But to me, it all comes together. Like there's a very simple playbook at works, and that's what we need to fight. It's not about trying to defend Israel. If you want to be a dumbass, that's on you. It's not even my problem anymore. I don't care. So I provide updates and information about Israel because I think that you should all know what's actually going on. That's a healthy thing to know. I can't be bothered to fight the argument for Israel's right to exist. Again, if you're a dumbass, that's on you. And I fight woke right and radical Islam, and sometimes the woke left because they're stupid too.
Okay, so you fight the woke right as well. And you say that as a right-leaning person.
Yes.
do you also is there a lot of division right now in Israel? And I'm genuinely asking, I don't know, in Israel between right and left, or is there
Yes.
mostly unity? Oh, there's division.
Yeah.
Extreme division. Yes, 100%.
Okay, explain.
What's interesting, in the same way that in the right in America, they both have this very, very strong belief that we need to fight for what America stands for. They just have different understandings of what America standing for America means. You have that split here in Israel, and people don't understand this. Something that people often miss is that, like in America, like in the world, the media is very left-wing here in Israel, and it's a representation of a left-wing voice. Now, maybe that's good sometimes, maybe that's negative. To me, that's a negative, because again, I'm okay with people representing their own perspectives. Everybody's allowed to. Free speech, go for it. But the right-wing voice is completely misrepresented, but it's a huge percentage of the country. It's not a small, tiny minority as they'll make it out to be. It's a huge percentage. It's a huge percentage of the soldiers, etc. So there's a lot of division that's actually fueled by, I would say, the media. As always, they gain ratings from hatred and anger and frustration. And there were many, many things. And I think me and Roy are probably going to strongly disagree on this. I don't know. But many things that the right-wing movement in Israel saw as just absolutely unacceptable during this war. And interestingly enough, when I've spoken to people from outside, I think a lot of them have more aligned with the right-wing perspective, this kind of very hard line on terror, etc. Like for a very simple example is the hostages. A big divide here in the country is around the hostages. Roy, are you a kaplanist?
No.
No. Okay. Ooh, good.
What? What did you ask him?
A kaplanist. So that's like the way you would explain like a, I don't know how you, a lefty. How else would you describe that? Like a lefty's definition of kaplanist.
Can somebody write that in the chat so I can see?
Maybe radical lefty.
Kaplanist.
It's named after a street where
the protest happened.
Protest, yeah, Kaplan Street.
Mm-hmm.
So like a good
is this divided over religious lines, or like are there a lot of secular atheists or secularists or atheists who are also right leaning?
Or is it it's not a religious argument. They use religion to incite more anger and frustration. In my opinion, like, and I've seen that pretty clearly. I grew up Haredi, so I grew up ultra orthodox. I don't consider myself now the same level that I grew up, but I consider myself Orthodox 100%. And I think that the anti-Orthodox movement in the media is definitely used for the media's benefit. But I don't think it's actually a religious argument inherently. I think it's much more.
So
I think
we've actually seen a lot of
uptick of religion in Israel since the war started.
Do we have a lot of secular part of the secular community in Israel also being right-leaning, or are the secular people mostly left-leaning? Oh, okay.
Yeah, 100. So that's what's interesting about Israel's politics. It's like a hot conversation for another time. Is that it's completely different to how people see politics elsewhere. So let's say you go to the States, you've got the right wing and you've got the left wing, and you know that a Republican votes X on guns and thinks X on abortions and thinks X on the economy, and a lefty or a liberal, whatever, thinks Z, right? You have this kind of separation. In Israel, the way the parties are built and the way the politics work is you have about 6 main core subjects, and people choose right and left on each subject, and it's not actually clear which one if you're right on this, you could definitely be left on another. It doesn't actually mean anything. But within those bubbles, you create a huge amount of animosity towards each other. So it would be acceptable for you to have somebody who, let's say, is religious, i.e. more right, is left on, let's say, economy, is right on security, and then is right on social rights like gay stuff. But you could also have somebody who's left on gay stuff, is open to that, is open here, is right here. You can have a whole hullabaloo of mixtures, and that makes politics very complicated in Israel. Roy? Are you with me? Are you agreeing with me, Roy?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Would you agree that is this true if most of the division right now is over hostages and the response in Gaza, or is it other things? And both of you could answer if you want.
Yeah.
Roy, you want to go?
Yeah, I think it's also about the whole signing up to the army of the Haredim. This is also a big one.
Is that a right left issue or a religious versus non-religious issue? because I think that's more of a religious, and also because I've seen a lot of right-leaning people think that they should be serving. So I'm like so I don't know if that's
who
a
are
different.
religious. You'll also see a lot of religious people who think that this group of religious. That's what I mean, is that you have a lot of different subcategories of topics where it's not just religion. It's not like you have atheist versus God-fearing. You have different types of religious, different types of connection to religious, and different ways of seeing it. So you have basically the actual way it goes is you have I would consider it like a triangle. You have Zionists, you have Orthodox, like religious, and then you have religious Zionists. And then there's a spectrum here, there's a spectrum here, there's a spectrum here. Am I about correct, Roy?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much, I mean, that's not including Christians and Arabs and whatever, but if you're in the Jewish world, you have these kind of three subgroups. The religious Zionists are the ones who are least talked about. They're just completely disregarded. No one even mentions them. And it kind of is always portrayed as an argument between less religious.
So the religious are most of your really religious people are non-Zionist? Is that what you're saying? Like anti-Zionist even something?
No,
right?
not most.
No.
No, some. But the way you painted it, you said like there's three religious Zionists and then religious Zionists. So and that the last one are the least talked about. So the way the picture you painted for me seemed like the main religious people that people talk about, their Venn diagram doesn't really match with the Zionist one. So why is the religious not separate?
This is going to
from the
sound a
Zionist?
bit extreme, and I don't mean this in an extreme way. I think that between the Orthodox and the religious Zionists, there is such a complete and total difference on life philosophy. It would be the same as Jewish versus Islam. Not the same actually, right? But like there is a complete dissonance. It's not like they're religious Zionists. It's not Zionists, religious Zionists. There's Orthodox, Zionists, and religious Zionists. It's three completely different categories.
And the Orthodox people don't really get involved in Zionists. Like they're living in a completely different world. Is that like what you're saying?
Well, I would say it's a lot more complicated than that.
Okay.
And we can get into it if you want. I can talk about this topic.
Well,
I talk about it a lot.
Well, we're getting to the deep. So let me ask you: do you think the ultra-orthodox should serve? Like, are you on the side of them having to serve?
Look, I think you need to understand the ultra-orthodox mentality to really answer this question, because the way I look at it is, to me, my husband has been at war since the beginning of the war. Okay, through my entire pregnancy, where I was bedridden for 9 months, through everything. Okay, and we come from an Orthodox house. I believe in it 1,000,000%. However, I do not believe that because I think something is right and I have the privilege of doing something, that therefore I should be forcing that on other people. And I'm careful about that. So one second, let me just explain this because it gets complicated and it is a complicated topic. The Orthodox movement is not inherently Zionist in the fact that its belief is for the survival of the Jewish people in its entirety, outside of the idea of Israel or not. Now, there's a place within this argument to say that they believe that God has to kind of drop Israel onto us and it has to be a miracle and we can't be involved in the state. But most Orthodox people, barring the extremists, don't feel very separated from the state, meaning they live in Israel, they're happy to live in Israel, they're grateful for Israel. However, on a hierarchy of values in their religious beliefs, they fully feel that their commitment to Torah and God's work is the only form of protection that actually works for the Jewish people. They are in full belief of that, and they believe that for Jews all across the world, and they believe that if the Jews of the world are failing or struggling or something's going wrong, it's because they are not doing enough of their Orthodox Jewish learning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but on October 7, none of them got in trouble, right? No, not even one of them got fired or kicked out of the yeshiva.
One second, let me explain. So let me talk about that. Go on.
No, hold on. Let me ask this question first. Don't you agree that it's ridiculous to enforce laws based on what you strongly believe? Like, you're telling me like this is what their beliefs are, right? Okay. Why is that relevant?
Yeah.
Like I could believe
why don't all Arab Israelis need to draft?
Huh?
Why don't all Arab Israelis need to draft?
They should be.
Okay, but they don't, and there's not a lot of public pressure on that. Why don't the 2 million
There
Arab
should
Israelis
be.
who
I
are
think if you're a citizen, the laws should
I
apply
think
to
many
all
of
of you.
us don't want them
okay,
to.
and I don't think you want the
Okay.
Haredim either. Let me just add that. But here's what I want to say. I can explain the logic of it to no end because I understand the logic of it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and I've spent a lot of work trying to understand it. And I'll probably be one of the most rational voices you'll find on this topic because most people get emotional about it. I'm not. I'm a realist.
Okay.
I want things that actually work and solutions that actually work. To me, it's clear as day that this kind of looking at a group of people who do not have a value in their value system, or if they do have it, it is way, way below their other values of serving in the army. Why is that? Is that legitimate? Is that okay? Personally, I think, no, I don't think that's the right way to go, but it is a fact. It's a fact that you have these Orthodox people who do not see the IDF as a value. Again, problematic in and of itself, but if you want to solve that, you can't force them into the IDF. That's not going to be the
But
solution.
you're forcing other people.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're forcing
Yeah, not a
people
group
who
of
you're forcing
millions.
people
You're
who believe in it.
forcing-
You're forcing the people who believe in it and who are willing to do it and who are
But
open to it. You're not forcing
it's
people who say
mandatory
this is
for
dangerous to their
others.
religion.
It's
What?
mandatory for other. If they believe in it, then they didn't need to be mandatory. They would just go. But it's mandatory for some of like. Isn't this unequal treatment for some of your citizens? It's mandatory, and for some of your citizens, because of their personal beliefs, it's not mandatory. Isn't that unfair? Is that not like betrays the equality under the
Look,
law?
I have my perspective on it. The way that I look at it is very simple. If we want to make it mandatory, there should be zero exceptions to this. Not lefties, not Arabs,
Yeah.
not women,
Yeah.
not Haredim.
Yeah.
That's my perspective on it. However, and this is the big distinction, you have to do that with consideration of the people that you're working with. So if you want to now suddenly draft 2 million pro-Palestinian Arabs into the IDF, everybody can see that that's going to be a problem. Why? Because idealistically, they're not aligned. What is the inherent problem here?
We
and the
could
real
give them
issue that I
office
believe-
jobs. We could give them some other job
No,
in
you
the
can't.
IDF that
You
doesn't.
absolutely cannot bring
Or
into
something
an
else.
army people who support the enemy, so to speak. You can't. Everybody
Okay,
can
so
see that
we
on
could
the
make
Arab
it.
topic,
We
right?
could make that. We can make that conditional on that. We could be like, we have to do tests on you supporting Israel or
Okay,
something like that.
So that's where I think the important point is. Look, don't get me wrong. This frustrates
Are the
me to no
Haredis
end.
anti-Israeli? Yeah.
What?
Okay.
If this
The
bothers
Haredis
me
are
to
not
no
anti.
end.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
If you're anti-Israel, you cannot serve. If you are not anti-Israeli, you should be serving, right? So if you're
So,
a
one second. Let me just explain
Yeah,
something.
okay.
So that point, if you actually want to solve the fact that we don't have all of the Arab Israelis serving in the army, a topic that's nowhere near discussed, there's an understanding that you need a cultural shift to bring those people towards Zionism and away from the idea of Palestinianhood. Roy, would you agree with me?
Yes.
You're not bringing those people in without a cultural shift. That's
Yeah,
my
but
entire
there's
argument
also
for
the point that
ultra-Orthodox.
we want them to come and we don't want them to come. So there's also that, right? If we don't want the pro-Palestinians to come, why would you hear someone claiming that they should? But we do want the Haredim to come.
I think that's because the media has been so hateful against the Haredim and put all the blame. To me, honestly, when I look at my friends, okay, who haven't, I think the media has been despicable towards the Haredim in Israel and has had no shame at all at totally decimating and being nasty and disgusting about a group of Jews who have a different set of beliefs. Now, again, you might not like that beliefs, but that's your belief. In the same way that the Haredim might feel like for the way that they believe in the world, you should be in yeshiva for 3 years for the protection of Eretz Yisrael, and they believe that and they feel that you need to be. To you, that you're like, what the are you talking about? No, because this is my
it's
world.
not relevant. That's exactly what Armin said. Why is it relevant? What is my belief? There should be equality.
The laws
They
shouldn't
should
care
do the
about your
exact
feeling.
same thing. No matter if I believe that I should do the army in some sort of way that they need to cater to my beliefs, I don't believe that I need to sit in a bush for a full month straight eating bugs, but I do it anyway.
So I think this is where it comes back to the most complicated argument. You asked before about unity within Israel, okay? There is a distinction between how people see it. Some people see it as a Jewish country first, and then as a democratic state, and some people see it as a democratic state and then as a Jewish state. And there's a separation.
Which one?
I feel that it's a Jewish country and then a democratic state.
No,
To
so
me,
what does that mean? It's a Jewish country. What does that mean?
To me, that our right to this country actually comes from our religion and from our God, and the fact that we're allowed, or that we're still here and that we're protected here is because.
But you're 20% Arab. You're 20% Arab country.
I think we made a mistake in how we navigate that.
Okay, but what? So based on your definition of Israel, should they take away their citizenship then, like the people?
I haven't said that, but I think that if you're asking me what I believe in how the system should work and how it does work.
Okay, but let's be pragmatic, because you are. If we are being pragmatic, okay, if given that you're one out of 5 Israeli is not a Jew, then you technically can't be a Jewish state, or else, because they are your citizens now.
No, I'm talking about my right to the land. My right to the land being a Jewish and religious historical right over more of a democratic right.
But Israeli Arabs have a right to the land as well, don't they?
No, not according to my Bible. Absolutely not.
Yeah, but according to the laws of your land right now,
they're allowed to live here. They do live here as equal citizens.
No. Yeah, so means that they have the right to the land. So according to what
as do Russians, as do Druze, they don't have a right to the land. If you're asking me on a personal level, no, they don't have a right to the land. They live on this land, but I don't think I don't think that the Palestinian idea of the Palestinian state is acceptable.
In the modern world, right, that we live in, rights come from the laws, right? And correct. When we say if they have a right to the land, we have to or not, we have to look at the laws. And based on the laws that are being enforced in Israel right now, an Arab Israeli has equal rights to you. So if you have rights to the land,
so we have a different definition of rights to the land. We have a different definition. What's your definition of rights to the land?
My definition of rights are all rights, not just right to the lands, are rights defined by your constitution or anything else.
So on that, we're 100% in alignment. If you're an Israeli citizen,
so what other rights we're talking about other than legal rights?
I'm talking about the way the pro-Palestinians say that you guys don't have a right to whatever it is here on Israel's land because it's the Palestinians. So I think that my right to the land on that level, not rights within the land, big distinction, an important distinction. My right to the land comes from our historical covenant with God through the Bible and through our religious beliefs.
But that's not how
it survived.
But that's not right now how modern nation states work, right? The reason, I mean, even if that's your belief, what is actually happening, the reason why you right now as an Israeli have the right to the land that you're living in is because of modern laws.
Oh, I agree. But I think it's a miracle.
Okay, so and what? Yeah. So
I think it's
use that argument when you're in an argument with someone about Israel. Do you use the religious argument? God gave it to me, or do you also use secular arguments?
I mean, I think it depends on who you're talking about. You guys asked me specifically what my belief is. My belief is that I'm an Orthodox Jew. This was a miracle given to us by God. We did a huge amount for it. I believe that we are in a covenant with God, meaning our actions are directly. We don't exist in a world that God just acts. We have to work with Him.
I'm not disputing your belief. I'm not like fighting against your beliefs. Okay, well, at least not right now. Okay, but I'm saying whatever those beliefs are, what is taking place objectively, okay, is that all the rights that you have to the land is being enforced by this modern legal system that every citizen of every other nation state is getting a right to the land. Okay, so and if that's how in the modern world we are getting the right to the land, based on that system, an Arab Israeli has all the rights to the land as well, because right now we're not using
rights in the land. Yes. Rights in the land, not rights to the land. Rights in the land. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, if you live here, you're a citizen. If you agree, if you live here and you're a citizen, then you have rights, 100%. And you're allowed to live here. By the way, in the same way that Russians and Bedouins and Druze.
What is the right? If you have rights in the land, then you have rights to the land. Like because
it's like Jews
the rights that you have in the land.
Jews have
No,
an
because
innate right to the land,
no,
and
hold
Arabs
on.
have
No,
like
if you
a
rights in the land includes all the rights to the land, because we're talking about all the rights.
I think we're just I think we're agreeing, we're just kind of disagreeing on the
Okay.
exact wording. I don't think we're having
All
this.
right.
I think it
So-
sounds like it's more of a disagreement than it actually is. Maybe I'm wrong.
Because because I think if we're saying because Israel is not an apartheid state, and that's one of the reasons I
Correct.
love Israel. Okay, but if we say that Israel is a Jewish state, and if the meaning, I'm okay with saying Israel is a Jewish state in the sense that it means that it's a refuge for all Jews around the world and no one else. That's fine, right? But once you're an Israeli, I think you should have all the rights that as an Israeli citizen, all the
I
rights
agree.
should be equal. Yeah, but if I think like somebody might translate what you're saying that we have right to the land and the Arab Israelis don't, then people are like, oh, some people.
I
So
didn't
you have
say
some
that.
rights that they.
I didn't
to
say
the
that.
land.
I
To
don't.
the
Yeah,
land.
I didn't say that they don't have rights within our land. Of course they do. And
No,
and
you
that-
said no. You said
this
they.
is not this is not Palestine. This is Israel.
This
That's
is
my
Israel.
belief. That's
Okay.
what I'm trying. That's all I'm trying to say. We're getting way
No.
into. We're
Yeah.
kind of having almost like a conflict
Okay.
around a thing that's not a conflict.
All
This
right.
is not
All right,
even
all
if Israeli Arabs believe this is Palestine because they have an inherent right to the land because it's Palestine. I think that's trite. It's not true. I think this is a Jewish land, always will be, and always has been, and I have that as a historic belief. Okay.
And also, even
Clear?
if you call it Palestine, Palestine was the name for Jews before we had the Soviets come out do their propaganda, because Palestine was also referring to the Jews at some point before we came back to the original
more
name.
Jews identified as Palestinians than Arabs did.
Yeah. So Palestine is the wrong name. It's the Roman name.
Correct.
It's the imperialist name that was given to this land. But before we had Israel established as a state, when people were referring to Palestine, they were actually referring to the Jews, to Jewish groups, Jewish institutions. It's a wrong name,
One
I
second,
agree, but it's a...
One second. Let's pull back for a second. Every single one of the terminologies that has been hijacked by the radical Islamists to take over the world is stealing from the Jews' experience and directly manipulating. Palestine, genocide. Who are the ones who've experienced a genocide recently? It wasn't them, it's us. Who are the ones that have always had the right to this land? The people that were then named Palestinians, maybe? Not actually the Arabs. They've managed somehow to hijack this whole thing. Occupation.
Yep.
It's all who are the ones who were occupied?
Apartheid is
the
basically demi-status. Apartheid is the demi-status.
Yeah. Look, to me, it's like I find this topic, not this specific topic, but just they have the most cynical and manipulative usage of words, which were actually like, oh, I'm a Zio-Nazi. Because I believe in, they like to take the words of what the Jews actually experienced over the years and use it for their own favor, because what the Jews went through was so dramatic and so bad that they can't justify it. They literally steal it from us. Like they like to steal lots of things. And again, I'm not specifically talking about Israeli Arabs. I personally have enough of an understanding of the Palestinian Authority and what goes on there and the manipulation that happens to a lot of the Israeli Arabs who are under more of a Palestinian education system. It's abhorrent and it's atrocious. And despite the fact that they have Israeli citizenship, I don't think they have any sort of alliance with Israel, a whole bunch of them. But there are a whole bunch of them that do and consider themselves Israeli. It's getting better. It would get better if they didn't frickin' try and push for a two-state solution, which took back all of the work that was what we were doing with the Palestinian Authority. But you know what? Thank you, Starmer.
Yeah. So I am. So I'm actually in favor of a one-state solution as well. It's interesting that but I don't see how explain this to me, because how you don't want more Arabs to become citizen, right?
When did I say that?
Do you?
Do you want like no? I'm trying to understand you. I'm not saying you said that. I'm just trying to
zero issue with there being tons of Druze in Israel. I have zero issue with law-abiding Bedouins, not the ones who are ruthless gangs down south in Negev, and I have no issue with the idea of peaceful people who identify or who are born into an Arab religion, as long as they are 1,000% aligned with a Zionist view and the belief that they don't get to kill my baby. That's how I feel.
So I Okay, so I explained my path towards what I think is the best path towards a one-state solution for Israel, and I say this as a non-Israeli. I know it's like weird to hear me as a, like, sometimes I get worried that the Israelis in my chat think like I'm lecturing to them as a foreigner, right?
I
But
remember your
help
switch.
me.
It was after a conversation with Rebecca. You landed on the one-state solution. You remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I am now a one-state solution. I used to think, and it's that, but also because of my trip to Israel, which like I went to the exact area where they showed me how far the West Bank is from Tel Aviv, and how easy it would be to basically overwhelm Tel Aviv with an attack from West Bank if it becomes a Islamic Republic of Palestine. So it makes complete security sense for me for why Israel cannot let go, and also the experience with Gaza. Like we saw, they evacuated Gaza. We saw what happened. Evacuating West Bank will probably be a lot worse. But
more than that, I mean, again, the people who are advocating for a two-state solution are similar to the people who believe in bringing socialism back to America. When you have an experiment that fails time and time again because you have a group of people who are refusing to actually be aligned with that experiment, as I think every Israeli would have told you before October 7th, or a lot of Israelis, let me clarify, a lot of Israelis would have told you, in theory, an idea, like we have Israel and we have Jordan and we have Israel and we have Lebanon, and you don't see most Jews in Israel freaking out that Jordan has its own state. I don't think a lot of people would have minded if there was Israel, and I don't know if the Sinai area had a name for it, and that's where the Palestinians went. That's not, I don't think that was the big inherent problem. I think the inherent problem is we tried to create a state. It's not a state. It's a massive terrorist hub. They do the same thing within the West Bank. There is no, you can't have a solution with radicals. And if you have an education system that pushes towards radicalization, and that's my problem with Israeli Arabs. If you're actually an Israeli Arab, like you are an Israeli Druze, like you are an Israeli Bedouin, like you are an Israeli Russian, like you are an Israeli Swede, somebody who comes here and says, I love Zionism, I love this country, I love what this country stands for, I love what this country believes in. Good for you. Do I think that we should be a majority of Jewish people? Yes, because it's a Jewish state. You can stay in your country, and if you come here, it's because you prescribe to something. But if you're going to be part of this group that's trying to make me manipulated into not you, I'm saying in general, trying to manipulate me into saying like, no, I love all Arabs as I love Jews. I don't. Jews are my people, and these people try and kill my people, and therefore I have a problem. If you don't want to kill us, you won't see me complaining about you like I don't complain about the Druze.
Yeah, and also we know that even if it's possible to assimilate it. No, this is so on point. I think you're 100% correct, and there's no shame in loving your community more than other people. It's the most one of the most human things to do, right? So I used to think it doesn't make any sense, and we should be like equal towards all people. And I used to be stupid. Now I understand that that's basically not the way the human brain works. Okay,
I think it's even worse than that. No, okay, go on.
Oh.
I think it's worse than that. I think that's a movement that people do, that people use. It's a trick used by people to erode societies. Okay, when you want to erode a society, you tell the people to focus more on other people than on your own society. Everybody knows this. If you have a mother and a father and children, and the mother and father care more about their business than they care about the children, what's going to happen to the children? That's going to destroy a family. If you have a mother, let's say, who loves another child more than she loves her own child, something is inherently wrong in that. It's not how our biology works. However, when you have countries, radical countries, communist countries, the first thing that they'll try to do is make you care more about a different conflict than your own problems at home, so that you're distracted from what's going on at home. It erodes your society, it destroys it from within, because people who have strong families and strong foundations and strong communities don't give up on that. You don't fight for it if you're so focused on Palestine that you don't notice what's happening in your own streets. It's a farce, and it's been used a million times over, and therefore I think this is an argument that you always see on, let's say, Piers Morgan. Piers will be like, but do you care about Palestinian children? Do you care about Palestine? Excuse me, why is it upon me to say that I care about Palestinian children? Do you think the Palestinians care about Israeli children? We know they don't. Don't guilt me into feeling like I have to defend the fact that I care more about Israeli children than Palestinians.
Okay, I do think, I do care about Palestinian children, okay?
We all care about children. 1 second. We all care about children, but I care more about my child than I do about somebody else.
That's what I'm trying. That's what I was trying to add. I think like it's okay to care about your people more,
Correct.
as long as you also care about other people to some extent, right?
For
Like
sure.
I think like you could, yeah.
For sure, but by the way,
I think we could
if
have.
you
I think
ask
it's not.
most
I think we
Israelis
should
what
have two extremes. I think we have two extremes. So people are like, I care about my people and no one else. I think that's one extreme. And then we have the other ultra universalist position. Like, no, you should consider all people. You should care about all people equally the same. I think that's also ridiculous. I think the reasonable ask is that fine, you could care about your people more, but find it somewhere in your heart to also care about other people, even if you care about your people more.
I'm going to take it even a step further. I think if you asked a huge amount of people in Israel what bothers them so much about Hamas, a lot of them will say to you the disgusting abuse of their children for their war benefits.
People call it children.
There's a powerful quote on that. Who it was one of your prime ministers. Yes. She said we
there
can
will be
forgive
peace. There will be peace.
Not that one. That's another one. That's also
okay.
powerful.
So
but this is another one. I think it was her as well. She said that we could forgive the Palestinians for killing our children, but we could never forgive them for making us kill their children.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think it's her too. I think it's her too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know if it is her, but it sounds like her. I think it comes down to this, which is just there's a manipulation in the air that manages to make it sound like, oh, let's prove that the Jews don't care about anybody. What are you talking about? Yeah. The Jews have proven themselves throughout all of history to care so much about everyone, to go above and beyond for other people everywhere they go. Look at the Jewish impact that the Jews have. It's this false narrative. And you know who created the narrative? The people who don't give a shit about their children, because they think that they can take their own lies and blame it on us. They've managed, again, they take the genocide that we experienced and turn it into their story. They take the occupation that we experienced and they turn it to their story. They take the Nazism that we experienced and they turn it on us. And they take the children killing and they place it on us.
Right.
This is what they do.
Yeah, I mean, these are the obvious parts. Like the anti-Israeli position. I think like we're having such a higher level discussion that just speaking against the anti-Israel position is such a brain dead position that I don't think like we don't even need to talk about that. But this is because I'm learning so much from you. By the way, thank you so much for all of this. So
Roy's
this is what
very quiet.
I'm listening.
This is what I want to learn from you. How do you see the one-state solution happening, given that you don't want to allow in people who want you dead as citizens? Then what is the way to get there then?
So again, I'm a pragmatist. I believe in actually realistic solutions. I don't think in the same way that people want this utopian peace ideal, things don't work that way. You don't get this perfect solution that drops down from the sky and everything works. What do you do with people who live in your country who hate you? You need to create a slow process of changing that, shifting that, hoping that works, ramifications if they don't, etc., etc., etc. And you have to be very comfortable being uncomfortable. This is the same thing that I feel about the ultra-Orthodox. If you want a solution, you need to be comfortable with the fact that this idea that, well, we serve, so we now have to get all of them who don't believe in serving to serve because it's fair and it's right. It's not actually going to work. You have to look at it and say, this might be uncomfortable. It might be unfair. Remember, they were allowed to not draft through the law. The law said that because there was a recognition in Israel, a religious recognition in the starting of the state that there was an importance to the religious aspect. It was legal.
But didn't they regret doing that immediately after? That's what I heard.
It was for about 20 people.
They were like, we didn't think this is going to go this wrong so fast.
Yeah. We didn't write a constitution, which was a massive mistake. We did tons of mistakes. I can go into 1,000 mistakes that the country made. And you have to remember that the people doing these mistakes, or not mistakes, depending on how you look at it, I happen to think that respecting religion and seeing that as an important institution and the rebuilding of the Jewish people after the Holocaust, where almost all the religion was completely wiped out, was very, very important. And we've succeeded in building that, bringing that back. Now, if you're not religious, that might not seem as a value to you. But to me, that seems like a very important value. Now, are we in that state of emergency that we were then? No. But again, you also have to remember the people who founded the country, Holocaust survivors, deeply traumatized, people who lived in Israel when it was mass starvation and it was a total chaos over here. They were they were inundated by enemies. People had lost everybody. There was such chaos and they had to rebuild a state from literally nothing and create something that's totally thriving. And they did that in 70 years. So it's very easy to go off like, they should have done that. They regretted this. But you're not talking about
No,
like
I'm not blaming them.
people
No, it's
sitting
okay.
back, you know?
No, I mean, they're very...
I think it's an important thing to remember and to recognize that, first of all, I think it's actually a beautiful value. In the same way that during the Holocaust, I don't know if you know this, Oxford students didn't have to go to the army. They were exempt if you prove that you were a proper academic student in university.
But they're not proper academics. They're sitting and just they're not contributing anything to society. I mean,
no, you one second. You believe that because you're not. It's not part of your religion. I believe that they contribute tremendously to the whole academic side of religion.
How do you test? How do you test that? How do you quantify that help? Maybe we could do that.
Is this super?
Fifth of them.
Is this supernatural? Like, are we talking about?
Yeah,
like,
we're
magical
talking
stuff?
supernatural. Yeah, but how do you quantify that? Maybe we could do the exact same amount.
Guys, we said we're not doing the God conversation too much, and this is what
I said.
No,
I'm not gonna debate you on whether or not there is a supernatural element here or not. I'm just going to understand if that's their contribution that you're basically taking into account.
How are they quantifying that? They say we save you. How? Maybe we could have this saving with half of the people or a tenth of the people.
By the way,
are there spiritually?
That's my belief.
Israel?
My husband's in the army.
Spiritually.
Yeah.
Wait, that's my belief. My husband's in the army. You guys have to. No, you have to remember. No, but you have to remember. Like, I come at this with an understanding of it, not an agreement of it, and there's a very big difference. It's not my world. It's not the society that I chose to stay within. I have a massive issue with a lot of the belief.
We want to know what you think. Do you think so? Tell us this, okay? And if by the way, is this getting too aggressive? Let us know. Like, are you?
I can do aggressive. We're
good. Let us know. Okay. Like, I think we're having fun. But if my tone,
no, we're good. We're good. I'm not upset.
Okay. So, do you, based on your belief, do you think the Heritage community is contributing with studying the Torah and doing almost nothing else? Are they spiritually protecting Israel? Is that their contribution? Do you see? Is that something that you see?
I think there are very, very, very few people within this movement who can actually be described as people who are so properly committed to it that they are contributing spiritually. I don't think that it is the total norm. And I think that's where the middle ground is, and the conversation really needs to be around the people who have actually a little bit burned out of this kind of full-time learning. Also, remember, historically, this idea of Jews in full-time learning was a very specific designated group. It wasn't all of the religious people. Most of them were farmers and milkmen and, all of these different things. And they also invested time in learning. To me, there's a very simple way of looking at this. There's a time for this and there's a time for that. I do not think that at a time of war, it should be made the number one priority to be in full-time learning. I think that's a little bit insane. I think that there could be certain people who should do that. But in general, to me, the belief is all of us need to up our contribution as much as possibly can during a time of war to the maximum, which means that if you think learning is contributing, figure out how to do that. But there's also other elements of protection. I don't think that if we had God right here talking to us, that he'd be sitting around and saying, yeah, absolutely. Not only should you be sitting and learning, but also you should make an absolute stink about how that's better than being in the IDF, and you should like mock that. I think that's abhorrent. I think it's revolting. I think it's unacceptable. I have nothing okay to say about that. I think it's the epitome of not being a servant of God. It's not there's an idea, derech eretz kadma Torah, this idea that having a nice mannerisms, being a respectful person, I don't know how exactly you describe derech eretz, is more important than the study of Torah, right? Meaning, if you have it all in theory and you're sitting and you're learning all day, but you can't actually apply what it means to be an exemplary, God-fearing Jew, that's a problem to me. But we're getting into super nuanced topics here. It's very simple. The same thing with the Haredim and the same thing, the ultra-Orthodox, and the same thing with the Palestinian or the Arab problem here. Of course, in an ideal world, I'll wake up tomorrow and the whole state is just perfectly Jewish and everybody's united and there's no war and nobody hates us. Okay, that's not our reality. I don't have a proper feasible solution to this issue of what you do when you have people who live within your country who actively hate you and who actively want to stab you. I think the first step is to make the ramifications for that so extreme, i.e. completely stopping any sort of pay for slave funding, under no circumstances, making massive financial ramifications for the families of people that do this, stopping any sort of education or budgeting towards education that allows for indoctrination into this, making our prisons a not nice place for people to be at the basic level of what you have to do for international law, but not a place that Arabs go out there or people who want to murder go out there and say, you know what, if I go to prison, it's fine. No release deals, none of all the things that allow for incentive.
I think you should also execute the terrorists. I think
you go watch. I have a whole podcast on this. I think you absolutely you have to produce a death sentence for people who aren't saying, you know, I've had a bad day, I'm going to stab somebody. You're saying this is my life belief. This is the best thing that I could do. This is the way for me to sanctify my religion and to become a role model for my society. I'm going to go out there and murder Jews. That is the type of statement which is, it's worse than being a spy. It's worse than being anything. And we've become so used to it, we accept it. In the same way that when you talk about this idea of like, imagine if Mexico just fired rockets at New York City, what would happen? We got used to them just firing rockets at us and we just accept it as if it's normal. That's on us. That's
add to that they will go away after a few years, right? They will be released. You can add to that.
That's on us. That's because our system's flawed and we don't respond to this thing with dignity. The way you respond to somebody who wants to kill you is with zero tolerance. And when you give any sort of tolerance to such an issue, what ends up happening? They try and take a mile and it keeps on going. And so again, you say to me, in an ideal world, would there be no Arab Israelis? In an ideal world, I wouldn't be having this discussion about it because like we're not having a conversation about Druze, it would be irrelevant.
I agree with all of that. I think if Yahya Sinwar was executed when you captured him, you probably might have not have October 7th.
Just leave the tumor in his brain.
Yeah, I know. Why? Okay, but so all of that is on point. 100% agree with you. Given that we're not talking about an ideal world and the steps that we could take to just make things better rather than making everything rainbows and butterflies, would you be in support of stopping the funding? Like you said, like, oh, we need to stop this policy and that policy. What about the policy of giving the Haredi community in Israel money to just stay home and study the Torah?
I think you absolutely stop that.
That was exactly what I was going to follow up.
I think all financial benefits. Number one, I think I told you I'm very rational. You guys just have to be able to listen to everything I say, and then you'll hear.
We are listening. We are listening, and we're enjoying what you're saying.
I have a lot to say on this because I understand this topic. First of all, I personally think that the country needs to turn our army into a professional army and outside of mandatory conscription for everybody. That's my personal belief. I think that it should be something that you go, and that means you get housing and you get huge amounts of benefits from the country and you get a good salary, and it should be seen as a total honor to be able to serve and defend the country.
I think the idea of people for this solution, right? Right now when everybody enlists, we don't have enough people.
Right, because we're at a state of. So I have a whole theory on this. I think that you have a professional army, and then what you do is you create mandatory miluim for anybody who wants like tax exemptions or financial benefits. But that miluim looks like you don't have to do 3 years in the army. You do 2 weeks of basic training, and you have to go back to the army for 2 or 3 days in case of a time of conflict. And if you want financial benefits from the country, then great. Then you have to do that. And it's very minimal. In a time of war, that means we have enough manpower who's trained up and who's part of an infrastructure. And I think a huge amount of Haredim would be comfortable doing something like that, where you're not saying to them, hey, you now have to come in. Yes. I think what's happened is because the media has dramatized this so much and made this so political, you've taken a whole bunch of Haredim who are actually much more moderate and open to this and tried to push them into something that they can't do in the format that it exists. It's not a solution. This is not about solving this. My husband works on a program, is involved in a program called Shlav Bet, okay? The idea of Shlav Bet, and I think it's brilliant, and I probably shouldn't say this on the internet, but it's for people over 28, 29. They can't conscript anymore, but they didn't for whatever reason. Either they grew up Haredi, they made Aliyah, they are Americans, whatever. For whatever reason, they weren't physically well or capable. And they put them through a rigorous like month training or 2-week training, depending on what it is. And then these people at the age of 30, 40, 50 years old, with all of their skill sets, are now part of the reservist infrastructure. Did they do 3 years of mandatory? No. Is it fair? No, because I don't know if Roy did the army, but if you did the army for 3 years and somebody did it for 2 weeks and you're both now considered the same, that doesn't feel fair. However, during a time of war, it's not fair. These people are over the age, right? It's not 20.
Even more, even if we both did 3 years, but he did the 8200 and I did combat.
Correct.
It's
not fair, but I don't think that it's right to talk about this conversation in the ways of fair. I think we're supposed to talk about it, move the fair out. Pragmatic. What's the solution? So what you have, and by the way, my husband's just come back. He's been with like 50 Haredim rabbis who are 40 years old, who are all part of their community, right? Who are out there training because they say, look, I can do a few weeks out of my life so that I'm part of the reservist, that in time, so that you can use my skill set. You need the rabbinut skill set, you need burial skill set, you need all these different things. You might need computer skill set or whatever it is. And then I'm now part of the reservist and I can support in times of conflict. These kind of solutions, which are proper solutions, these are proper solutions because they're cultural shifts. These are the leaders of the community who now come home in IDF garments to Haredi societies, and people see that. It's real cultural shifts. None of this is being talked about. None of this is being discussed or shown or presented at all because because it solves the problem.
I thought
people don't want a solution to this. They just want to hate.
Okay. I thought based on maybe hate all the hate that you're saying and the media bias, I thought that the Haredi community just was allergic to being involved in the war because of religious reasons. Like they just want to have nothing to do with the war because they just have to wait for God. God is gonna. Is God supposed to do? No. Okay.
No.
Okay, so that's
it's because it became such a deeply political issue that you force people who would have been open to going to the army, who would have been interested in it, who were trying to contribute in some way, to say, prove to me that you care more about the IDF than you care about your God and your religion. That's what it ended up becoming. It's not a comfortable thing to say, but you pushed, not you, the media pushed a whole lot of people who do listen to their rabbis into a back corner because it was becoming this kind of shift. Like you have to prove that. And that's never going to work.
I never heard someone say that. That's a great way of putting it. But you just say you need to prove that the IDF is more important.
But
that's the argument, and you're asking of these people to say that. They're never going to say that.
How do we know? How do we know? Like, okay, so you are a religious Jew, right? Mm-hmm. So it might be that you're also maybe like is it possible that it's in between what they're saying and what you're saying? Like you're maybe like making it sound like too much.
No, I think it's more than that. I think when you talk about Haredim, in your head, you have one man. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who are on a massive spectrum of religious belief, of social belief, of political belief, of ideological belief. You have a huge group of people. But what ends up happening is that you're asking these people who culturally totally would have shifted towards more and more in the army, who would have connected more and more to this idea, who would have been more involved. You're asking these people to make a proper ideological stance against their community in the name of politics. Why are you both laughing about something? Did you send a text?
No. Somebody sent in the chat said Roy is attractive, and Roy was like, "Thank you."
Sorry.
Sorry.
I got it.
No, but I listened to every word that you say. I listened.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's
Roy,
the way
I can see Roy every time somebody says Roy is attractive in the chat. I could just see his smile. Like he gets just so happy. He just really loves that.
No, you guys make me smile more. You guys make me smile more. I want to raise something that happened to me. People said, okay, so the Haredis are afraid that their children will become secular, so maybe they're not secure enough in their belief, etc., in the army, because it happens. But then someone said, would you send your child to the army if he could come back Haredi? I would never send him to the army if I know he might become Haredi. I would never do that.
But I think that's the important distinction, which is what you're saying is there's a group of people that IDF is first, and there's a group of people that their religion is first. You can disagree with that. You're allowed to disagree with that. But you can't go to those people and say, my belief is so important. Look, I have every explanation in the world. And I'll agree with you that you're right on your arguments. The IDF's important and serving the country is important. But you can't go to these people, bully them, hate on them, destroy their reputation publicly, and then say, now just give up your religion, give up your hierarchy of values and shift to mine.
Okay. But
you can't ask
but
that.
It's don't you agree that it's kind of easy to destroy their reputation, and like they're kind of doing it themselves? Because after October 7th, like, don't you think like the other Israelis are kind of justified to hate on this community because like your country was just attacked and everybody is trying to protect the country, and these people are saying like we can't, like these like it's not just the media, like I'm just talking to average Israelis and they hate a lot of these people are like, we're defending our country and these people are reading the Torah
because of the media. There is zero reason that the conversation didn't shift after October 7th to, guys, look how deep the problem is in our society. The Arab Israelis, they never draft. They're actually pro-Palestinian. They hate us. We have real enemies within our country. What are we going to do about it? How do we deal with this? There's 2 million of them. That would have been a very natural conversation from the media right in the wake of October 7th, when we found out that these people who are allowed to work for us and be involved in our societies, they betrayed us. The media went after the Haredim and made them the number one topic, when the number one topic in this country should have been a million other things and could have been a million other things, but there was never an equation.
But you're short on soldiers.
Yeah,
it makes sense why so many people would talk about that, because you're short on soldiers.
Okay,
and you're also very critical to your own family first.
There's a lot of them that are not serving. So like, if your priority is security and the main thing that you're lacking is more soldiers, I think it would make sense for a lot of people to be like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Look, I'm not sure how I feel about the we need more soldiers argument, and I'll tell you why. I haven't been convinced by it yet. At least for the first 6 months of the year, there was like an 110-120% turnout for reservists. The anti-Haredi...
but it shouldn't be 110, it should be 100. Okay, sorry.
Okay, because people who didn't even need to be called up said, we want to come back, we want to help, we want to contribute. There was a surplus of energy and of direction and of people who wanted to give everything for the army. It was then that the media started hating on the Haredim. Right then. It was way before we reached this year and a half of exhaustion and burnout and not having enough people. It was way before then.
Are you saying that 4 years ago, no one said that Haredim should enlist and what's going on? Or you're saying that before October 7th, no one cared about this?
No, but I'm saying they did. It was talked about on the media a lot. But
so it's not just after October 7th.
But I think what happened after October 7th is that the people of Israel committed so deeply to the IDF that there was such a clear understanding that there's a strong ideological distinction. And that is very painful for people.
Right now, you don't have enough soldiers. Okay, so even if they were unfair at the beginning, right now that argument makes sense. Right now, a lot of people are like, okay, enough with this shit. Like, we need more soldiers, and these people are not serving. The rest of us are protecting the country. These people are just acting like they're casting a spell, shielding the country, while we're actually going there and fighting. Like, this doesn't make any sense. What?
Don't diss on my religion.
Yeah.
Look, I'll tell you. I
use different words, but that's where they're different.
Look, you're gonna laugh at me, but I feel very strongly, that Israel is all Jews' country. If you believe it or not, I feel that every person in the world has an obligation to protect and to help defend Israel. Every Jew out there. That's my personal belief. I was very disappointed to see that there wasn't a massive push of Jews from all over the country to send their young men to help defend the country. And there was no conversation about that. And I think that's an interesting thing as well. Look, I'm not trying to excuse the Haredi thing. What I'm trying to say is that you have a political issue that is not going to get solved like this, and it's definitely not going to get solved by bullying and by draconian kind of crazy things. I don't think that there should be funding to anybody who doesn't serve in the army. And I think that's true of Arab Israelis. I think that's true of anyone.
And do you get a lot of hate for that? Do you get a lot of hate for that? Because you're from not from the left, okay? But because you're saying that as a right-leaning religious Jew, and do you get hate for having this perspective from other right-leaning religious Jews?
Yeah, I get hate from I get Haredim that tell me, like, what are you even saying?
right-leaning religious Jews.
But I think
Sorry.
everybody.
Sorry.
Oh, look at that.
Wait.
I like hearing myself. It's fine. I think that everybody has a strong feeling about this. And I think that the media has been highly, highly responsible to contributing to that in many ways by inciting a huge amount of anger. Look, I think it's similar to the Bibi Netanyahu thing, okay?
Oh,
The
yeah, let's talk
hatred
about that.
towards that man in this country is unwarranted. Now, can you have a lot of issues with that man? For sure. Of course you can. But the absolute hatred, the fact that there are a lot of people who feel in this country, I hate Netanyahu more than I hate Hamas. And that is
Oh my God.
a quote from one of our biggest Hasbara operatives. I don't know how else to describe it, an operative, right? One of our biggest Hamas, one of our biggest Hasbara people out there who said that, and I heard it, okay? That is a byproduct of the media, of media manipulation.
Are you a big fan of Bibi?
Yes and no. I'm an enormous fan of his political thinking. I find him super interesting and intriguing and brilliant in many of the things that he does. And I think I don't think anyone can hold a political candle to him. I think he is seen as an absolute hero by anyone who can actually think about geopolitics. I don't think that I think he holds on to old consensuses, which are very dangerous for the country, and I don't particularly believe in.
All right, so here's what Israelis who hate Bibi tell me, okay?
Okay.
They tell me that he funded Hamas, okay? And they also tell me, and I know what to say against that, because technically all politicians at that time were for it. It wasn't just Bibi, right? And the point was not to fund Hamas. The point was to de-radicalize Gaza. And the only way to get the funds to the people in Gaza was through Hamas, because there's nothing else operating there. So that's what I would say if I wanted to defend Bibi. But another thing is, people will say, listen, at the end of the day, October 7 happened on his watch, and that is unforgivable.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to that?
And under his watch, the Iran nuclear threat was almost decimated. Under his watch, Hezbollah has been almost completely removed as a threat. Under his watch, we've seen more movement towards potential change and shift. And guess what? We got almost all the hostages home after the media swore to us left, right, and center that Netanyahu will never, ever, 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 ever do anything like that. There's no way. He hates the hostages. He doesn't care. It's Trump. It's Trump. Look, I think it's very easy for people to find. Look, I think it's an emotional blame. Let's put it that way. I think people are unbelievably in pain after what happened on October 7th. They're looking for a scapegoat, and they've managed to make Bibi Netanyahu. I personally think the media needs an enemy, in the same way that if you took Trump out of the picture in America, you'd have no news anymore, because he's like such a political figure. There's something to talk about. In Israel, if you just go onto any news article, he's constantly talked about. I think he's been made into this figure. Look, 100% under his watch, October 7th happened, for sure. But I'm also super, super duper grateful that it was under his watch and not a different politician, because I think that any other of our politicians, any single one of our other politicians, would have made such a shit show out of what just happened. Right. They would have
I mean, Naftali Bennett would be good, no?
Yeah, Naftali could kick ass.
Naftali's good. Yeah, okay. No, but I agree.
I think he's an amazing orator, and I think he is a very he's a young politician. I don't think he has the political acumen and experience yet. I think that within the next 10, 15 years, maybe.
But what about the corruption? What about the cigars and the champagne?
That's BS. That's absolute BS.
Yeah, but why is it that
politicians are corrupt?
Yeah,
that's
why is it that? But why are you like surprised that it happens? What happens after a political person remains in power for 20 years?
No. Wait, let's go back.
We need a different elective system.
What?
No, wait. We're going to go back to the corruption first. I didn't get an answer to the corruption. So let me tell me if this is correct or not. I was told that he bribed a newspaper to write favorable pieces on him. Yes. Is that true? Is that true?
Is that true, Meira?
First of all, innocent until proven guilty is number one. Yeah. However, I don't know exactly what he's done, but I've been watching very, 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 very carefully for the last 10 years because I'm unhealthily obsessed with his political genius and I know everything about him. And it doesn't exactly align with all of the things that he does. Everybody that I've spoken to who knows him says this man doesn't touch a gift, doesn't come near it, is very wary of the media. He doesn't. Okay, this is from personal experience. That's okay. He's very wary of the media. He's very
personal experience.
No, that's not true. You keep saying media, but I think there's right leaning media. Which channel is actually in his favor? What channel? Channel 14. And a lot of people criticize him for only talking to Channel 14 and any media that is favorable of him, and he doesn't talk to the media that is unfavorable of him. And you keep saying media as if all media is left leaning. We have a lot of right leaning media in Israel as well.
Netanyahu has done a lot to actually try, and I've seen this time and time again, to try and avoid any potential allegations against him. My issue here is, look, innocent until proven guilty. You put him in the courts, great. However, what I've seen in the last 2-3 years of how deeply and unbelievably corrupt our country's legal system is, and how quickly they trump up charges which are incorrect, how they're completely biased in the way that they do different things to different people based on their political camps, that's where I'm going to have an issue with it. Do I know if Bibi Netanyahu smoked a cigar? No, I don't know. The only way I would know is if I was in that room or if I was the person receiving or giving the bribe. I don't care to know. What I care to understand is how is it that the country has allowed for such a corrupt legal system, and we're right now embroiled in a crazy scandal, an absolute, which I'm assuming, I don't know if you know about, but crazy scandal. What?
You do? You know it?
Scandal?
The Qatar?
Well, you know.
No, the fact that he's in the middle of the war, he has to keep going to the court.
No, not about Bibi. Not about Bibi.
Oh, what?
There's a crazy legal scandal going on right now. To me, the fact that every single, I'll explain it in a second, but every single person that's in the leadership of our legal systems is clearly, blatantly overstepping their jurisdiction, not being fair and right in how they put things forward. And the fact that during a war where everybody with a brain can understand that not only is it a security problem for our country, but this is not where his focus should be under any circumstances. Now, you might have the argument, look, he's intentionally postponing and drawing out the war so that he can get out of this trial. Okay, if you want to go that far as to say he's so afraid of the cigar thing, but if you read the indictments this week, one of the prosecutors said, yeah, we were pushed and we basically went way above our jurisdiction in the trying to find information. We don't have any. If you read any of the indictments, they don't hold a candle to the reality and to the truth, and definitely are not serious. We're not talking about extreme rape charges or extreme bribery charges in which you're saying this person might be a serious liability to the country and shouldn't be running the country. You're talking about very, very niche topics that most Israelis can't actually tell you the basics of what happened because it's so irrelevant. And you just hear he's on trial during a war. It's a disgrace, and it's a problem with our legal system.
I mean, and I think we need to read some super chats. People are starving.
Wait, what happened? What is this?
Super chats. We have many super chats, like timeout.
Oh, there are people commenting on everything that I'm saying. I feel so awkward.
Yeah, that's too, but
I didn't see the comments. Chats. I'm going to start reading them.
Yeah, we need to read some super chats.
Okay, hold on. Let me just read the super chats really quickly. I have so many other questions. All right, so Comrade Shifty just became a member. Thank you. Somebody with a long username said, I'm Israel Chai, Javid Shah. Right back at you. Thank you. So I love it when people say I'm Israel Chai and Javid Shah next to each other.
Yeah, you need to pronounce it right. Armin won't let you pronounce it wrong. Javid Shah.
Javid Shah, yes. But I'm saying I'm Israel Chai correctly, right? Israel Chai is right. Yeah. So if I say I'm Israel Chai correctly, you should say Javid Shah correctly as well. It's okay. And then we have Shani saying Israeli politics is extremely complex. Yep, I can see that. And then we have Shalom from Roy De Janeiro. From Brazil. Oh wow, yeah, nice. I thought. Amir saying today's stream is so informative. Love it. Well, thank you so much. Wow, okay. Israelis even think it's informative. Shani saying best live ever. Wow.
Ooh, Meira.
Thank you. And then, hey, Meira, am I pronouncing it right?
Meira,
Meira,
yeah.
yeah.
Meira. Hey, Meira, good discussion. You're from UK, right? Do you think that ethnic English people should have their own nation state like Jews have in Israel?
I
What
think
do
you
you think?
shouldn't allow for immigrants to overrun your country, and you absolutely need to remove as many of them as you possibly can. I'm not talking about people who came from India 30 years ago and who are fully UK citizens at this point. But yes, get rid of leadership who thinks that they can overrun your country with Islamists right now and bring back the British ruling of your country. It's an abomination. It's disgusting. And I am from England originally, and it's atrocious, if you're asking my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's not really about the natives. It's about migration when it happens too fast. I think migration, if you are going to have migration, you have to do it very slowly so that
And
there's
also
some sort of
from where?
Yeah, it also
assimilation
depends
could
on
happen.
what the reason that people are migrating. If they're
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're migrating because we believe in taking over with an Islamic,
Yeah.
backbone
Yeah.
to us," then you
We're
don't
not
let
here
them
to
into
take
your
part.
country.
Yeah, we're here
Yeah.
to take
So
over.
migration has to be done slow, legally, and also the right people.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Slow,
any. I don't
legally, and
think
the right people.
any UK citizen feels like, "Oh, we can't have an American come to England." I don't think anyone worries about that. I mean,
Like a
depends which
surge of
American.
American is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Depends which Americans, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then we have Amit saying Netanyahu is better than Keir, Macron, and most of EU. Yes, I
Amen.
agree with that.
Much better.
And then we have another super chat saying we Iranians love Bibi
Yeah.
Gol. Okay, only leader who understands us. That's true.
Amen.
By the
Yeah.
way, yes, Bibi actually sends a. I don't know. I think you guys know, right? Bibi sends a lot of messages directed to the Iranian people.
Yeah.
And they are so popular in Iran. Every time he does a message directly to Iranian people, it becomes the viral news on Iranian social media, and everybody starts talking about it, analyzing it, responding to it.
Because you know why? If you actually leave the ridiculous internal politics here of Israel of trying to turn Bibi into a villain, he's been an absolute hero. Did he make a mistake in trusting the people who run his internal intelligence? Absolutely. Does he have flawed philosophies on how to do stuff? Absolutely. But he has come back from that in one of the most historic comebacks of all time, and everybody just needs to shut up about trying to hate him for the fact that maybe he smoked a cigar once upon a time. Look, if he needs to sit in prison for that, then he'll sit in prison for it. The whole country, like the whole legal system, wants him in prison. And if they can't put him in prison, by the way, it just proves how trumped up these charges are. But the fact that people here refuse to recognize that he's absolutely seen as a hero by people who don't like radical Islam, and he's feared beyond belief. There's a reason that every single hostage video included a nasty anti-Bibi message. They're afraid of him because he's a capable leader and he's a wonderful leader. And I feel that very strongly, and I'm grateful to have him as my leader. Do I agree with everything? Absolutely not. I think there should have been zero aid. I think we should 100% be pushing away from American dependency. We should be fully self-sustainable when it comes to our military arms. And I think Bibi gets obsessed with kind of like speaking to people, like, having this relationship, this diplomatic relationship with America, which basically means that we're dependent on them. And I hate that dependence. I have a lot of different issues with the way that he runs things. But the Israelis are shooting themselves in the foot. We've got a leader that so much of the world totally respects. A lot of people think that he's a genocidal maniac, but a lot of people respect him. And instead of being able to support him, rally him, get behind him, which is what I personally do and I try and do, and say, okay, you're not perfect, you're flawed, but at the end of the day, October 7th was coming to us because we don't have proper ways of dealing with security. We were not defending ourselves properly. To me, that's an IDF problem. Okay, surprise, surprise. We need to rethink some things in the IDF. Not a Bibi problem. Right. He's responsible, but we don't have to make this all about hating on him for that. It's a waste of our energy. It's such a sad thing for us to be doing as a society right now.
Well, let me respond to that. But before that, we got also another super sticker from Mehmet. Thank you so much for the super sticker. But let me just say, I mean, this comes off really, I don't know. I don't like saying this because I'm not Israeli. And I don't know if Israelis would get offended when I say this. But I think a lot of Israelis are being ungrateful when they hate on Bibi. Because I don't think any of the Israelis could have imagined what all Hezbollah has been decapitated, Hamas has been decapitated, all of the main IRGC leaders are dead. We Iranians could never imagine that in our wildest dreams. Like, that is so. One day we slept, we woke up, and there were every single person that we hated, like in IRGC, they were all just gone. Like, what?
Because he's fucking amazing.
What?
I don't filter on this, probably not. He's amazing. And look, he's very, very flawed. And he has a lot of flaws in his leadership, but he has a huge amount of political acumen. He's unbelievably precise in a lot of the things that he's succeeded in pulling off. And he is hated here. It is, in my opinion, inexcusable and the wrong way to place everybody's energy. Look, I think this is true about the Haredim. And this is why I say, like, obviously radical Islam is enemy number one. But enemy number two to me is the media. Because they divert our attention when the whole country right now should be focusing on unifying and on celebrating the soldiers and on appreciating everybody who did and disregarding everybody who didn't, just not paying attention to them and trying to figure out how we can build up from here.
You have right-leaning media.
What?
But you have right-leaning media that
who loves
Bibi,
like, and who doesn't always go crazily after the Haredim, but sometimes they do because they're part of the religious Zionists, so that's a different problem in itself.
But it's so from somebody might listen to you and think that you are just upset over the media that you don't like, even though you also like what, like somebody might say, hey, what are you complaining about? Israel is a diverse society with a whole set of media outlets covering all sides, and you might not like the media outlets. Right, mute your mic when you're coughing, like me. Like
I pressed it. It didn't work. I actually clicked
no,
it.
it didn't work. No, but somebody might complain and say that, look, we have obviously shit takes by media in Israel because it's a free democratic country where everybody could have a media outlet and say whatever they want. But why are you complaining? You also have a whole bunch of media outlets that are right-leaning and celebrating Bibi. Isn't that just a natural part of being a part of
Can I tell you an
democracy?
interesting story? Did you know that when the country started, there was rations on most food and all of this stuff because there wasn't a lot, and they rationed paper? And they only gave paper to left-wing news outlets, and right-wing news outlets weren't given access to any paper. And the right-wing news station, was deemed illegal, so they had to put a boat into international waters, and that's how they broadcasted the radio. So they were given, the left-wing media in Israel dominated for basically the first 50, 60, 70 years of the country until the right-wing were finally able to somehow catch up with a media that completely dominated, in addition to the fact that our leading media sources are all also in English and translated, and so therefore present to the world an opinion that is so far removed from a huge amount of how we see. I am willing to bet that almost every Iranian is actually a right-wing Israeli. They're right-wing Israeli, but they don't get that voice. You won't see that voice anywhere. You can't watch Channel 14. Channel 14 is relatively new.
You mean Iranians in Israel?
No, I mean Iranians and their belief system are actually aligned with the right-wing Israelis who feel no aid to terrorists, death sentences to terrorists, very, very strong military reinforcement, total sovereignty over our land, zero acceptance and tolerance of any form of terrorism. You're all aligned with us on that. It's religious freedom.
That's what passes as being right-leaning in Israel. So basically, having common sense is right-leaning in Israel.
By the way, the hostages hijacked this thing. The hostage movement was funded in part by the Biden administration's department under USAID. They sent money to the people who ran that, but the people who ran the hostages started beforehand as the people who were in the anti-Bibi protests. It was just a total shift. And they turned the hostages in, which I think is probably the most evil thing to happen from Israel's point of view, not from obviously the terrorist point of view, during this war, where they turned the hostages into a political pawn. There's no discussion about this, Roy. Agree with me. They were turned into a political pawn. The entire issue was, and it was clear, Hamas were saying every single day, like, oh, the protesting is helping us. We're causing division within Israel. We're causing issues within Israel. And so many of the right wingers were saying, we really, really, really pray that the hostages come home. But everybody has to understand that if we release thousands of terrorists in exchange for these prisoners, and if we draw out the wall for 2 years instead of actually go all in at the beginning, because there are these 200 people who Some of them are my friends. I am so grateful that they are home. If there was any scenario now that we're in, thank God they're home. And let's get the last 4 ones home as well. Amen. Hallelujah. Right? But that's not a correct. It wasn't a correct decision. It wasn't a correct decision for the security of the country. Yeah, that's the right way perspective, but that wasn't covered in the media. You didn't see that.
It sounds hateful to. It sounds. I'm actually afraid of saying this because it sounds so. Maybe people would sound so. It sounds so ungrateful for the fact that the hostages have been released. Let me know if this is a bad thing to say, and I will not say it if it's like, if you could convince me that it's not correct. I think that preventing another October 7th is a higher priority than getting the hostages back. But if you say that out loud, it seems like you're saying that
you don't care about the hostages. By the way, who created that pressure? The media created that pressure, because that's not correct. It is okay to say in one breath, of course we want the hostages home. Of course we feel sick from seeing these videos, which we shouldn't have even begun to see. Of course, but we also don't want future hostages. But we don't want thousands of terrorists released. The Israeli media covered this. The left-wing media covered just the hostages coming home, and it hardly touched upon the thousands of terrorists that got released. It wasn't part of the conversation.
I mean, you're here because you released a.
You were deemed a terrible person if you even mentioned it. Because what, you don't care about the hostages? They came after you and they made the hostages the main topic. People say to me, why did it take so long in Gaza? Well, I don't know. Did you see how quickly we did it up north? The reason was because of the immense political pressure.
It was also because the war looked aimlessly, and it looked like an excuse for Bibi and all that. So it's not just like, oh, we don't even want to fight them. It's not enough to secure the hostages. It was all of that. It felt like they're prolonging the war and doing nothing, and we don't see any goal in the war, and the hostages are still there.
By the way, as I said to you, my big issue with Netanyahu is that what the F with the aid? What the F with the slow war? Go all out. Why do you care about what the world says? They're going to hate us anyway. And that's my belief in general.
No. I think you need to be more pragmatic. It's not 0 and 1. Like, okay, let's be more pragmatic. Okay, the world, a lot of the world is going to hate you anyways, but you cannot lose the support of the US. You cannot afford to lose the support of the US.
I agree. By the way, I have a whole show on this, and I explain this extensively.
You need to do certain things.
That Netanyahu constantly plays two chess games, and they're important to understand. You've got the massive geopolitical game that he's playing. That's Iran and America and UK and EU and all of that stuff. And he's playing internal politics. And they're very different. They're enormously different things. And he's playing both, and he's often juggling the intersection. The fact that Israelis are going to be upset at him. Let's say right now we have a conundrum, okay? There are 200 terrorists, Hamas terrorists, under a tunnel. Okay, and there's a lot of political pressure on Bibi Netanyahu, specifically also from America, to not break the ceasefire and to basically let them go instead of killing them or whatever the plan would be. Okay, Israelis are like, absolutely not. Don't let these terrorists get away with it. And America's like, do not escalate the war to this point. There's too much pressure on it. So now Netanyahu sits where he always sits, which is, how do I navigate my big geopolitics and my small politics? And he's always asking himself the question, which one right now is going to be more of a loss for me? And that's how he answers it. And I could write a thesis on how Netanyahu deals with these conflicts, and he's always dealing with these two simultaneous.
So your criticism for Bibi is not fair, because he has to also manage into his international image of Israel. That's why he needs to do.
I think that Bibi has disregarded the international image of Israel, and I think that he should be held accountable for that. I don't think that they have done any. I think if Bibi put his mind to actually figuring out how to present a proper PR thing outside, and I think it's probably the team that surrounds him that's in large responsible for that. I think he would figure it out, but he hasn't, and I think that's unacceptable, because I think there are real ramifications for it. I will agree, though, however, that it isn't fair of me to criticize the way the war was done, because, again, at the end of the day, it's all nice to say, let's not send in any aid. But if that means that we're not going to receive any support from America, and remember, most of this war, half the war, we were under a Biden administration that basically had our hands tied, that people have forgotten because they've gotten very comfortable with Trump, but we had our hands tied. But to me, the dependency on America that Bibi Netanyahu, under his leadership and his style of thinking, has kept going. Right? He has not at a certain point said, okay, we have to figure out how to totally sever from America and become independent from them. And that to me is a real problem. I see that as an issue. Again, it's very comfortable for me to sit here in my bedroom and be like, I know how Bibi Netanyahu should rule the country. It's ludicrous. It's not, it's stupid. Do you know? It's stupid. And it's idiotic on anybody to think that they actually know all the calculations. What I can say that on a personal level, I feel and believe the hostages were released because of the Qatar assassination, because Israel said, screw the diplomacy. Yes. We're going strong. We're going all in. And I personally think that we should have done that from the beginning as self-respecting people, and we would have figured it out. If it would have been personal,
and Trump got the credit.
Of course, Trump got the credit. That's the Israeli media's fault. That is the Israeli
I was so shocked. I was so shocked when Witkoff was actually giving a speech in Tel Aviv. When he mentioned Trump, everybody was like, "Thank you, Trump." And then when he mentioned Bibi, the whole crowd was booing him. I'm like, "You ungrateful."
That's the media in our country. It's not talked about enough. Our media is poisonous. Is it allowed? Should there be free speech? Yes, but you also have to recognize when somebody's saying something bad when there's free speech, and not fall for every argument. The media in Israel is corrupt. I have a lot of bones to pick with it, and I think they are personally responsible for a huge amount of the pain that most of the Israelis went through throughout the war. I think that they exasperated issues that emotionally drained people. They didn't focus on stories of hope and stories of connection and stories of unity, which they absolutely could have decided to if they had seen their obligation to this war is actually figuring out how to help the Jewish people instead of figuring out how to get more ratings, because they got addicted to the ratings. It was abysmal and disgusting.
I mean, Roy, mute your mic.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
How? It's mute.
Just click on the mic icon on the.
The mic itself says that it's muted right here.
Don't touch that. Just hit the mute. Okay, what was I saying? Do you think it's too much? Do you think it's fair to say, like, if it's too much to say as a foreigner, a non-Israeli, that so many Israelis are being ungrateful to Bibi? Like, is that fair for me to say or no?
Yes, like, people are ungrateful to Bibi for sure.
Okay, so you as an Israeli could give me the license to say that, okay, from now.
Yeah, because because Israelis are ungrateful to him. Now, I happen to think that the lack of gratitude comes from a huge amount of pain after October 7th. I think different people diverted their pain differently. For me, the pain made me realize I need to do something. That was my pain. I didn't focus in on how to blame and how to and who's responsible. I didn't care. It was like, what's missing, what's needed, how do I show up? That's my job. And by the way, I've gone through this war not bitter, happy, more connected to myself. Not happy, obviously, but like more connected to myself. Actually found meaning, helping people to get through this time in a complicated time. And I take that responsibility very seriously. I think other people decided to take their anger and frustration from October 7th and become bitter and angry and furious and protest and hurt. And I think there are certain individuals who had no choice because they lost family members, they had hostages in their family, etc. And to them, all the grace in the world. All the grace in the world. If you were chosen, in my opinion, by God to go through such a terrible and horrific time, I cannot come after your emotional state or your intellectual beliefs. Go for it. But people always say to me, well, how would you feel about Bibi Netanyahu or the government if your family was if your husband was kidnapped? And my argument to this is always very simple. It's always very simple. I would bring down hell on earth to get my person home. However, I also know that it is the government's responsibility to not fall for my individual wants and needs, but rather to protect and defend the entire country, not just my person. And I would be fighting against that, but I would expect of the leadership to not say, oh, Meira doesn't want to pay taxes. Okay. Oh, Meira wants this for her hospital. Okay, I'm doing that. Because their responsibility is not to me, it's to all of us. And you have to make very complicated and horrible decisions when you have to think about the masses and the individuals. As individuals, we all suffer from that in different ways, but we also gain from it as a collective. And this is the constant, complicated, nuanced dance that you're doing. And I think there's a total lack of gratitude and a total lack of grace. And I think our country would have been in such a better place if everybody actually felt grateful. They said, oh my God, October 7th happened not because of Bibi Netanyahu, but because we have maniacal, radical terrorists living on our borders who want to do anything and everything that they can to destroy our way of life. And we are going to show up like lions. And thank God we have a leader who, yes, made mistakes on the way, but thank God that we have a leader in our helm who can actually figure out some way of navigating this, and who has done and has proven that to us. Let's get behind him. Let's get behind this as a country and defeat the enemy once and for all. Instead, it's become a who hates Bibi more competition, and people are bitter. That's a shame.
Okay, given how powerful that was, I think this is a good time to advertise your channel. Let's put
plug it
here. I put the link in the chat, guys, and the link is also in the description. Not that she needs my advertisements; she's like growing so fast. But I saw some people saying, "Give me Meira June her own YouTube channel." She has her own YouTube channel. One. By the way, when she says June, when this person is saying June, that's just Persian for deer, right?
I know. So, I've read enough books over the years to know Baba June.
Yes. So, guys, the link to her channel is in the description. Speaking of Iran, do you think Trump also, you talked about Biden holding Israel back. I think Trump also held Israel back.
Yes.
Especially during the 12-day war. I think you guys almost finished the job and Trump didn't let you. Okay.
Yes. Because again, and I actually don't hold this against Trump. And I'll tell you why. Even though I think it was a
What do you guys define as finish the job? What do you mean finish the job?
I mean,
well, Iran then
Trump
attacked, sent another, Trump stopped us from going back and retaliating properly.
Yeah, just one strike, not like finish. What
Trump said that he saved Khamenei's life.
And specifically.
Yeah, so
he's a pretty bad guy.
Yeah, if Khamenei died, I don't know if we will have the Islamic Republic right now anymore.
Yeah,
like it might have been the end of the Islamic Republic, right? But yeah, how you were defending Trump?
No, so defending Trump's a strong word, but I think Trump is the president of the United States. His interests are in the interests of the United States. Biden was mentally unwell and wasn't defending anyone or doing anything. Okay. He was just acting on behalf of other people. But Trump's responsibility is to the American people. And therefore, he is always going to have American agendas before Israeli agendas. The Israeli agendas are different. What Trump needed to do with Iran is basically to go in there, to set them back as much as possible, but to also keep his people happy.
Right.
Israel's needs were irrelevant in this. They just had the proper intelligence and they had the proof that Iran was moving forward and escalating because they were willing to fire ballistic missiles at us. So that meant Iran was now really taking their ability seriously and pushing the buttons. So Iran was becoming
the Islamic Republic, not Iran.
The Islamic Republic. Sorry, but you guys know what I mean when I say that. Okay, I'm used to talking to Israelis. The Islamic Republic. Okay. Yes, sorry, important distinction. And I actually tell people off on my channel all the time for not making that distinction. So thank you for
No, it's okay. We Iranians are very sensitive about that, so it's okay.
I know, and I'm also sensitive by it. I don't know why I made that mistake. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
In America, what happened when the Iran war started was Trump started to lose a lot. And we've seen this movement just expand, the woke right, the kind of America only, as we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, right? This kind of like, do I only care about myself and care about zero others? Or do we understand that we care about ourselves most and we also care about others? So this new American anti-MAGA movement, who's right wing, is this kind of, we only care about ourselves. He had to end that war as quickly as possible because he was getting so much hate for it. And he wanted to prove, he started that war and he ended that war with one goal, with two goals in mind. Number one, to put the Islamic Republic back as much as they possibly could. Number two, to prove all the people who hated him wrong in America, this kind of MAGA movement, this anti-MAGA movement. The only way he could do that was to say, no, I didn't start a war. No Americans got hurt. Nothing has gone out of control. Let's call this a win now and let's end it really quickly so that he's ended the war and he got this massive win under his belt, including the nuclear thing. He did what he needed to do. Is that the right thing for Israel? No. But is Trump's responsibility to Israel? No. This is my problem with our dependency on America. It happens to be that with Trump, we have somebody who's very much aligned on the goals and really sees a lot of what's a benefit to Israel. But at the end of the day, he's going to do what he thinks is right for him and is right for his country. That is not always going to be aligned with Israel. This is something that I spoke about extensively on my in my original podcast when I started talking about this topic. It's like the Israelis kind of fell into this, oh my God, Messiah. Trump is the new Messiah. He is on our side. He is very much aligned with us, but he has his own agendas. And that's something that everybody needs to remember and understand and appreciate. Thank God he's aligned with us, because if that man was not aligned with us, we'd all be we'd be in a very bad state.
So speaking of alignment, do you agree that the Iranian people and Israeli people are very much aligned when it comes to their interests right now? Okay. Tell me.
I think if Islamists weren't totally radicals, we'd have like so many of them were just so unhinged. I think in general, Jewish people and what should or could have been a healthy version of Islam would be very much aligned.
There's no healthy version of Islam.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But I think in the theory of what Westerners want to believe that Islam is,
right,
the Jewish ideas and is that fake illusion of what Islam could have been or should have been or is in their eyes, those people would actually very much aligned. There is a sense of community and a sense of family and a sense of culture and a sense of heritage.
Muslims.
Remember, a huge amount of Jews are Iranian, are from Arab countries. There's a deep connection and cultural connection that goes back thousands of years between these two societies. And to top that all off, we have the same enemy. We all hate radical Islam. Like, we all see the problems with radical Islam. In Iran, I think it's much worse than what we have here, because you've got the freaking Islamic Republic. Now I'm so excited to see women uncovering their hair in Iran. I think that's amazing. But the fact that that means that their life could be in danger is petrifying. I feel very grateful to have the IDF that defends me. But we're up against the same enemy, and we have cultural similarities. And I think that we're 100% an ally. And I think we're an ally that they're very afraid of. And there's a reason that Netanyahu speaks directly to them and that the Jews care about them so much.
So, yeah, but I love the points. Just 3 points. First of all, like when you say the healthier version of Islam, the way I know what you mean, the way I try to speak about it is all Islam is shit. We have good Muslims who don't follow Islam as much, and then we have bad Muslims. Right, so that's I separate the Muslims, not Islam, and I think we agree on that.
Yeah, so I think cultural Islam and Judaism is very much aligned. Let's put it that way. Cultural Islam, not the religion of Islam.
No, I think it's a bit difference between because cultural Jews are people who are just kept the culture but they're not following the religion. But we don't have something like that in Islam. We don't have cultural Muslims. We have nominal and minimalist Muslim, which is a different thing than a cultural Jew. A nominal or a minimalist Muslim, even though they are a nominal Muslim is somebody who's just a Muslim by name, but is living a life exactly like somebody who's not a Muslim. A minimalist Muslim is a Muslim who is a Muslim, does the basic things of praying and fasting, but other than that, their life is basically the same as somebody who's not a Muslim. And the reason why a cultural Jew actually cares about the culture and follows it because they care. A nominal Muslim and a minimalist Muslim, they just care about so many other things that are not Islamic. That's why they're not living radical Islamic life. So there is a bit of a difference, but I understand what you're saying.
So, and actually on this point, I'm an expert in radical Islam. I am not as much of an expert on actual, more moderate, regular day-to-day Islam.
Radical Muslims, not radical Islam. Because there is no non-radical.
Yes, correct. Radical Muslims, meaning I understand a lot about that culture, the jihadi culture. That's really where I specialize. Look, I read an amazing quote that you're going to really like. I think, Armin, you're going to really like this. Somebody said to me, radical Islam is the snake in the grass and Islam is the grass.
Right. Yes, because they're providing cover unknowingly. They're providing cover. They're giving it credibility and authority and legitimacy unintentionally. So their numbers, even if they're good people, they're unintentionally helping it grow. So I completely
correct. So
I
I
agree
think
with
that's the
that,
right
yes.
way to look at it, where it's like it's the world, the path to evil is paved with indifference. Not that Islam's indifference, but like you have, first of all, you have, let's say if you have 20%, and I think that's a kind number of Islamists who are radicalized, that's 150 million people. So that's a problem in and of itself. But I think that kind of this whole like, no, look, we're really nice, really good people, these TikTokers who pretend that they're like, you know, beautiful women who are loved by their husbands, when we just know that's just not the regular story. That's not the reality. What's going on?
Right.
They're accomplice. They're accomplice in not
Right.
calling out
unintentionally, but yes, yeah.
Yes.
2 points regarding hijab and Islam in Iran that you might not know. Let me know if you know already. But
I don't.
with regards to women taking off their hijab, so we celebrate that not because that was the main goal, but because it's a signal that the regime is losing control, right?
Correct.
So a lot of Iranians want the foreigners to know that we don't see this as a accomplishment because the goal was the woman being able to take off their hijab. Like, this is not a big win. The big win is the
that no one's
removal of the
killing them
regime.
for doing it.
Yes, and also right now the Iranian people suffering from the regime is far beyond intolerance, because people right now, the mismanagement of the Islamic Republic, because the Islamic Republic is not just Islamic, it's also communistic to some. It's like command economy. Like, people are dying more from the poverty that has been forced upon them by the Islamic Republic, more than the executions or anything like that. Right now, it's really bad. Right now, there's no water, there's no electricity. It's horrible. And so, and also the regime is actually trying to use the fact now that they have lost that battle, the hijab battle. Some of them are trying to use that to their advantage. They're like, look, everything is okay now. Look at the woman without the hijab. So we have reform, so you don't need to pressure us anymore. So we have to be careful with the. It's true that many Iranians are now not wearing the hijab, which is against the law. But the government is now trying to take that into use that as propaganda as well. But also,
I think that's similar in Israel with the hostage thing. It's like, oh, the hostages are back, so the war's over.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, keep on going. I'm intrigued to learn more about it, and I always want to hear more.
One more thing that you might be, a lot of people, when I told my chat, were shocked, is that the Islamic Republic is now using anti-Islamic content creators and encouraging them. Like, people who are aggressively anti-Islamic, they are actually being supported by the regime.
Why?
All right. Because the regime has lost the Islam battle, right? And it's not a red line anymore in Iran to be anti-Islamic. I mean, you could still get into danger, right? It's not safe, obviously, but it's not a sensitive topic anymore because so many Iranians are already anti-Islamic. Like, I think Iran is the most anti-Islamic country in the world right now. I don't think you will find any other country with this level of hatred for Islam compared to Iran. And the regime knows that they have lost that battle completely. So the red lines right now in Iran for the regime is support for Israel and support for Prince Reza Pahlavi. These are the two red lines, right? And the regime knows that anti-Israel or anti-Pahlavi narratives will not sell if it comes from Islamic sources, because nobody will pay attention to that.
Interesting.
In fact,
so they're basically trying to make the anti-Islam narrative aligned with the anti-Israel, so that if they see the anti-Islam thing is growing, they realize they're not losing from that, but they see the anti-Israel sentiment's growing as well. So if you can combine the two, then it's a win-win for them. Interesting.
They're actually making the Islamic Republic is actually supporting anti-Islamic content and accounts, right? So that when needed, they also post against Pahlavi and post against Israel. So this is very interesting. You see so many content creators that are constantly attacking Islam, making fun of Muhammad, making fun of the Imams. But as soon as, for example, Israel attacks, they're all copy paste the same narrative, like, oh yes, the Islamic Republic is bad, but we should be united with our government when somebody attacks us. It doesn't matter if the government is bad. We're all Iranians, and Iranians should be united against foreigners. And they all
I'd love to
copy
see
paste the
that.
same.
I'd love to see proof of that. Like, I'd love to see the accounts that do that. Tell me more about. I need to stop heading out soon, but tell me more about Pavlani a little bit. I want to hear about him. What do you think?
Pahlavi?
Are you familiar with Prince Reza Pahlavi?
Yeah, a little bit, but I want to hear from you.
Okay, so Prince Reza Pahlavi is every single scientifically poll collected from the Iranian people, both inside Iran and outside of Iran, shows that he has the highest amount of support compared to anyone else among Iranians with a huge margin, right? And he is pro-West, pro-Israel, pro-secularism, pro-democracy, and also very much in defense of maintaining the border integrity of Iran, right? Pro-human rights, all of those things, right? He has a team which has come up with a plan to what to do after the Islamic Republic falls, and it's the most detailed, advanced plan I've ever seen for any revolution. There has never been in history a plan this detailed and by experts, by Iranian experts, written about what to do during the interim phase after the regime falls, right? So if you actually read it, it's pretty amazing. And if you go look at the plan that they have, and the team is very much celebrated. They just, in the past 2 years, Prince Reza Pahlavi's team has grown significantly, and their plans, they constantly come up with plans on what to do after the regime falls. And also, a lot of people misunderstand. They think Prince Reza Pahlavi wants to bring back the monarchy. If you actually look at his plan, that's not what they want to do. They want to come back and give the Iranian people the decision on what they want. So they're going to be a referendum, whether we're going to be a monarchy or not. But one thing, if you actually go study the plan, the foreign policy part of the plan, you could see in week 1 after the fall of the regime, one of the highest priorities of the foreign policy is the recognition of the state of Israel, which shows that there's a huge priority for them, right? So,
I've seen him pictured a lot with like pro-Israel influences, and like at events, they bring him to different places, right?
Yep, he met with Netanyahu.
Yeah, it was in Israel.
He actually his travel to Israel was what sparked a lot of Iranians to now feel like it's not a taboo anymore to support Israel. So you could see if it was after his visit to Israel that every time you see in United Kingdom, Canada, UK, France, wherever, where people are waving the lion and sun flag of Iran, they also have Israeli flags with them. In fact, one thing you notice that if anywhere in Western countries where you see people coming in support of Israel, there's always an Iranian flag there in the middle of it, every single time, every single time. And this all happened after Prince Reza Pahlavi went there and supported, and people saw that it's not a taboo anymore to support Israel. So and I think this is supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi is, in my opinion, supporting Israel, because for Israel, defeating the Islamic Republic is not good enough. Because if you defeat the Islamic Republic and there's a power vacuum, and then something else fills it that is hostile to Israel, you're just basically back at square one, right? And also, if Iran gets separated into small little pieces, then what's going to happen? You're going to have a lot of civil war, and you're going to have so many little like Shia ISIS's growing in the region, and every single one of them is going to become a new Hamas or a new Hezbollah against Israel. The best solution for Israel is for Iran to become a strong, independent, united country that is an ally of Israel, and you're lucky to have a leader that is actually wants to get Iran there. Like before the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran and Israel were allies. Iran was one of the first countries that recognized Israel as a state under the Pahlavis. And if we get back to that, imagine if we have two countries that are fighting for two countries with nations that are on team life against the cult of death. Like look at our chants. Like you say Meira K, which has life in it, and we say Zan Zindagi Azadi, which has life in it.
Say that again.
So you guys say Meira.
I want to hear the what? Zan Zindagi
Azadi. Zan Zindagi Azadi. Woman, life, freedom.
Woman, life, freedom. Yeah.
Woman, life, freedom.
Woman, life, freedom.
Which words? Women. Zanza.
Zan is woman. Zindagi is life.
Zendegi.
Azadi is freedom. And if you want to
Azadi.
complete it,
Zen Zendegi Azadi. That's such a cool word.
Yes.
Zen Zendegi Azadi.
It's made Indian.
yes, yes.
That's
And
such a good
actually,
one.
the full version is then Mad Mihan Abadi, which means man, nation, prosperity. So it goes with woman, life, freedom, man, nation, prosperity. That's the full
By the
version.
way, I love that because that's like actually just comes right back to the difference between like males and females and their contribution, which is really like women, life, freedom, the idea that women bring life but also bring freedom and happiness and spirit. And then the man one
Right.
is, what do you say, man, nation, what was the next one?
Prosperity.
Prosperity, right? They are the ones responsible for the nationhood, for the identity, and for the success. And that's like literally the distinction. The women bring the freedom and the light and the life, and the men bring the direction. And I love that. I think it's beautiful. I want to comment not on what you said, but actually on one of the comments that's come up. Can I do that? Or do you want to
Yes, of course.
finish your thing? Because what you're saying is very
No, just one last thing before you say that. In fact, in Persian, the words Zen and Zendegi are so similar because woman brings life. That's why
Correct.
Zen and Zendegi are so close.
or peoples with wombs.
People,
I'm just-
person with womb.
Birthing person.
Birthing.
Okay,
Oh,
there's this
birthing.
person on here called, I don't know whatever, I'm not going to say their name, but they just wrote, Meira knows we are honest, the honest ones, and the Zionists are lying about everything all the time. She's just a racist, don't believe her. I love these kind of comments because I think this is exactly the way that these pro-Palestinian, or I don't even know what this person believes. They could be a pro-Palestinian, they could be a Chinese bot for all I care. But they instead of being able to actually argue any of the things that I say or my opinions and the things that we believe, they'll just immediately call you something defamatory and make you feel emotional. You know, like these terrible people, like a Zionist, she's a racist, they're lying, don't believe her. It's so classic. It's honestly embarrassing and it's a little bit old at this point. It's gotten a little exhausting. But I think this is an important thing because I want to wrap this up. If we're talking about the anti-Israel propaganda, which is similar to the pro-radical Islamist propaganda, which is a war that Iran's fighting in its own way and experiencing, there's this kind of ridiculous new idea of like dual loyalty that we're seeing a lot in America. You're not allowed to have dual loyalty, right? If you're American and you support Israel, that means you have dual loyalty. It's almost seen as a curse. It's almost seen as like a defamatory statement. I think at the end of the day, the ability not just only for us to be nuanced, but the ability for us to say, we know our enemies, we see our enemies, we see the tactics that are being used against us, the way that they would try and call us names, and they can't hold a candle, but we're the ones who actually experience what terror feels and looks like. America experienced 9/11, but they've forgotten about it because they successfully voted in an Islamist who would probably have cheered on that day, right, to lead the city where everything happened. Very simply, the people who actually experienced it are the ones who, it's not a dual loyalty thing. It's the ones who actually have an understanding of what is going on and the significance and the importance and the contribution. When you're an Iranian Canadian, let's say, right, or an American Israeli, you're somebody that understands both cultures, that sees the benefits of both and the ways that both can contribute to each other. And so therefore you're the type of person who actually should be speaking out to Western society about what's going on in Iran, because you get both, you see the beauty of one, you understand the culture and the nuance. I think there's a real important emphasis that needs to be made by the people who are fighting not for Israel, because I genuinely don't think that any of this is really to do with Israel. It's against what it looks like to live under a radical Islamic mentality and society. We both know it. The Israelis and the Iranians understand this. We can have a million differences of opinions about God and about religion and about everything, social issues, etc. But at the end of the day, we're up against an enemy, and that enemy manifests itself for us in reality. For a lot of people, it manifests as fake bots online that just try and scare them, like this person, like, look, she's a racist, trying to create fear-mongering. But we experienced it, and therefore we have to be the mouthpiece of the people who haven't really experienced it and don't understand to take the threat seriously. Have you guys seen Game of Thrones?
Of course. How could you not?
Of course, yeah.
So spoiler, if you've watched it, if you haven't watched it and you're planning on watching it, you know how there's the people at the end, the whole idea of Game of Thrones, you have all of these different people who hate each other that have to band together because an actual enemy comes.
Yes.
And it's the people at the beginning who the people who saw that, and I'm not trying not to give stuff away, right? But the people who saw and physically experienced the enemy, they have to figure out how to capture that enemy, bring it as proof that the enemy exists.
They also
It's
ended up
upon,
fighting them. They didn't
right?
get unite. They didn't unite eventually.
They had to go get the corpse. They had to go get the corpse to go to show that this thing
But
is
it didn't
real.
help. It
Right.
didn't help.
It didn't help because the
Didn't
people
came.
couldn't put
It
it.
did a little
But
bit.
in the
No,
end of the
she didn't came.
day, but what ended up helping when the people who were powerful and capable actually brought their skill sets and didn't hold back and decided that they were putting all of their energy to focus in on that. The Iranian people, when they succeed in defeating the Islamic Republic, and the Israeli people have an absolute obligation to the Western society to be saying every single day and calling this stuff out every single day, because we have experienced it. We know what it looks like. We understand the real threats of it. And to me, I think that's kind of the note that I want to end on. Don't be afraid of the bullying. Don't even listen to it. It's ridiculous. It's bot-like and it's pathetic. It has no substance to it. The people who have experienced it are telling everybody in the world to pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening.
Do you have time for me to agree with you a little bit?
Yes, I have 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
First of all, that's a really good example, because the army of the undead is really good comparison to what Islam stands for, and the fact that they're on team death and we're on team life, and again, makes us even a better comparison. And I also think that the fight that Israel is fighting right now is not for the sake of Israel; it's for the sake of the world. And I think many Israelis might not even know this, because the enemies of Israel are trying to destroy Israel because Israel is in the way. They're not going to be content with Israel. They're going for the rest of the world. This was a 3-phase plan. Phase 1 was to remove Pahlavi from Iran so that they could capture Iran. Phase 2 is to destroy Israel so that they could capture the Middle East. And the intention is to destroy what they call Western imperialism, what we call is the world liberal order. And that they want to destroy that. And if people don't understand what that means anyone, anywhere, that's everything that you enjoy, the standard of life that you enjoy, all the economic prosperity that you enjoy, all the stability that you enjoy, all the peace that you enjoy is because of an order, a system that has been put in place ever since World War II that is being backed by the US military. And Islam is not just a religion, it's a world order. It's a world order. It's not a religion. It's a world order that is competing with this new world order that we're in. And the intention is to destroy all of that. And this tiny little country of Israel in the Middle East has managed to stop all of that from spreading all around the world. So a support for Israel is not a support for Israel. It's support for Israel, supporting the entire planet. And that's why I support Israel. And I also think Israel needs the Iranian people, because fighting as good as Israel is, Iranian people need Israel and Israelis need Iranian. Because what Iranians lack, Israelis have. We are unarmed, and you have the best weapons. But what the Israelis, and Israelis know how to have. But what Israelis don't have is enough boots on the ground to be able to do regime change in Iran. That's why Israelis need the Iranian people to do regime change. And I think that's why the unity between the Iranian people and Israeli people could end this madness to a huge degree. And that's why I hope, yeah.
Go on.
No, that's why I hope you mentioned Prince Reza Pahlavi. You researched Prince Reza Pahlavi and mention him on your channel, Meira, at some point in one of your videos.
I will do. I'm happy to. I actually really like him. I've read a bunch of stuff about him. Look, I think I just want to add one more point to that, which is important. I agree with everything that you said. I think that we're allies. And I think, the reason that I find it ironic almost that this is like an atheist channel, that's the name of it, is because at the end of the day, this is a religious war. The focus on Israel is historically a religious reason. Islam has an Achilles heel, which is the fact that the Jewish people were chosen by God and we are undefeatable. And that doesn't align with their religion and their belief of being able to take over the world. It is the reason that at the beginning of everything, they center and they focus on the Jews first. They want to see that they can take us over. And until they succeed in taking us over, they don't. There's a religious undertone to this. In my own, again, you might not think it's a God thing, but I think that for them, this is a religious war. And for Israel, in many ways, this is a religious war. Now, that religion might not be the Torah or the rules that you think God gives, or that it might not be revolved around God, but it's revolved around the idea of Western society and Western values, good versus evil. To me, as I said at the beginning before we even started recording, God is that good thing in the world, that energy, the thing behind that pumps, that makes the universe continue, whatever you want to call that. We are good versus evil. That is the basic fight. And all people who are on the side of good have to band together, because this evil is very, very powerful. But I feel and believe, and I will always feel and believe, that at least we have God on our side. It might look scary and it might look petrifying, but there's a reason they always hone in on us. Historically, we are undefeatable, we are unbeatable. And if they want Islamic domination, they need proof that they actually have that, and they're never going to get it. So their downfall is coming upon them.
You mean
I agree.
uneradicable, not undefeatable,
I
right?
might.
Because we were defeated a few times.
What?
No, eventually. No, I think I agree with you that the Israelis are, at the end of the day, maybe not every fight, but at the end of the main battle, they're undefeatable, but not for religious reasons. I mean, I consider Zionism to be a secular movement. The main founder of Zionism were not non-religious people. I also consider Western values that made the world a better place were part of the Enlightenment movement, which was actually a movement away from religion. But let me actually point the agreements rather than the disagreements. I do think the people of the nation of Israel is undefeatable, but not because of, as an atheist, obviously I wouldn't say because they have God on their side. I think they just became so strong because the whole world was against them, and they just had to get so good at surviving for so many years.
Because of miracles.
Yeah, but I know you say that as a religious person. As an atheist, I think when you are a group of people that the whole world is intending to eliminate you, and you manage to survive that, you develop a set of skills and a set of cultures and a set of methods and a set of values that makes you stronger than others, and that explains why Jews are so good at adapting and surviving. I think that's the reason. I mean, I give you secular
fragility.
Yes, exactly.
God's gift to mankind through the Jewish people is
anti-fragility. I think the Jews didn't inherit that it wasn't a gift from God. I think I give the Jews more credit. I think they managed to get that themselves through hard work, through years and of hard work, rather than a gift being handed down to them.
It's a combination. Let's end on. Okay, I really need to go.
All right. Okay.
It was
guys,
great
this was
chatting with you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And guys, please go and subscribe to again, do yourself a favor, because you're not doing her any favor. She's already growing really fast. But do yourself a favor and go subscribe to our channel. The link is in the chat and also in the description. I'm not going to hold you anymore. I know you have to go. And I just thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ray, for chasing me. I appreciate it.
Oh, can you say can you say Javid Shah? I say Am Israel Chai. Can you say Javid Shah?
You have to remind me how to say it.
Javid Shah.
Javid Shah.
Javid Shah. Am Israel Chai. Javid Shah.
Javid Shah.
Javid Shah.
All right. Bye, guys. All right. Let's end this.